All right, so this is the second sugya that we're studying in Masechet Xulin. It's really a continuation of the previous sugya. This is a gufaha. Gufa means we're now going to be taking a statement that we made in the previous sugya, which is in the class number 1, and we're going to be analyzing the substance of the statement. There was a statement by Rava regarding a Риאה where the outer membrane was removed or no longer there. When I say removed, that's the way it was found. It was found meaning now that somebody came, punctured, they did a surgery on the cow and removed it, but somehow it was missing. And because of that, the Риאה looked red. So that was the statement of Rava. That statement was said within the context of the first sugya, but it was never fully analyzed. So in this gufaha, which is kind of an appendix to the first sugya, we're going to have 7 statements of Rava. And this is very common. You have in the Gemara, Shev Shemateta, Shev Milashon Sheva. So Shev Shemateta is a common structure in the Gemara. So you can have here 7 Shemuot of Rava, which are all interrelated with each other, and they're brought in the Gufaha. Right, so that's the purpose of this second, let's call it an appendix, not necessarily a separate sugya, but an appendix. I want to point out something. Our sugya starts on Daf Mem Vav Amud Det with the word Gufaha in the middle of the page, and then it ends with Daf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph. This is the last and 7th statement is Ve'amar Rava Haneh Tarte Bu'eh Tismiche Lehadadeh. Okay, that's and then we'll have the end. Now, if you look, the continuation of the page, there's an 8th statement. It says Ve'amar Rava. That's a statement number 8. That's not part of our sugya. The reason I don't analyze it as part of our sugya is for the following. Rambam points out that Shemona terefot ne'emnu lo leMoshe b'Sinai. There were 8 terefot that Moshe Rabbeinu was taught in Har Sinai. One of them, of course, is derusa, which is the most obvious. One animal is dores another animal. Then you have nekuva. We were dealing with the question of nekuva in the previous sugya and in this gufa, which is the appendix to the previous sugya. We're dealing with the question of nekuva, specifically nekuvat Риאה, and different types of deformations of the Риאה, which you would say, does this mean there is a nekev? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Okay. The statement on Mem Zayin Amud Aleph, the Amar Rava Chamisha Une'it La ריאה, that statement doesn't have to do with nekuva anymore. It has to do with yetera, or hasera, actually, hasera. So the other terefa shenemna leMoshe b'Sinai is hasera. So and then it deals with the questions related to hasera and yetera, right? And that's why I don't consider it to be part of the gufaha discussion. The gufaha discussion is an analysis of misformations of the Риאה that would potentially suggest that there is a nekev. You understand? So that's why you see why I don't include the 8th. Really, you can say, wait, I see an 8th statement of Rava. It's not Shev Shemateta. There's an 8th statement because the 8th statement I believe is a new sugya. I analyze it as a new sugya. Mm-hmm. And why do I analyze it as a new sugya? Because conceptually, it's a new topic. Yeah. Until now, we're dealing with nekuva, and now we're dealing with hasera.
Mm-hmm. What about the first one, the
the first sugya?
No, the first statement I think is.
Yeah. So let's we're going to start with the first statement now. So let's start it. We'll read it, and then I will explain, and we will.
Is that really a nekev, the ke'ena sumka statement?
1 second. Hold on, I just want to check one thing.
Oh.
Right. So you're asking, why do we include in the 7 the statement of Rava that was brought in the previous sugya? Why do we include it here? The idea is that probably these 7 statements were interrelated. They were brought together, right? They all have to do with the question of nekuvat Риאה, right? That's how I understand it.
Yeah.
So let's begin. Chavot. So gufaha, with the head.
גופها אמר רבה, היי ריאה דאיכלזה כאינה סמוקה כשרה.
ריאה that again it wasn't because I was listening to the previous class I gave and it sounded as if though somebody peeled it. Nobody peeled it. It was found like that, meaning it was missing the outer membrane. So now the igleda, and it looks like a red date, kashera. Right? This is not meaning this is not an indicator. You would think that perhaps a nekev in the upper membrane is considered a nekev and it makes it a nekuva, and therefore it's the animal is terefa. The answer is no. And here we see that if the entire upper membrane was removed, so long as the lower membrane is intact, it's not considered nekuva.
אוקיי.
Yes.
ואמר רב ריאה שהאזימה מקצתה כשרה כולה טרפה.
Okay, now this is the second statement. Now, the second statement is interesting. It says Re'ah shehe'edima miksata. Part of the Re'ah became red. Now you see, conceptually, it's similar to the first statement. In the first statement, we have a Re'ah that's completely red, but it's completely red because it's missing the upper membrane. That's the natural color of the Re'ah. In the second statement, it's not missing the upper membrane.
Yeah.
So somehow it became red.
Which one of the membranes?
It's not missing any membrane.
Itself,
It's not missing any membrane. So you took out the Re'ah, the second case.
I'm saying in the second case, it's the second layer that's red.
You made shechita on the animal.
Okay.
You look at the Re'ah, it has two layers.
Okay.
It looks red. Normally it would not look red because the outer membrane is a whitish color.
Okay.
Here, for some reason, you're looking at it and it looks red. So the suggestion would be that there's a leakage of blood. That's what you might think, that there's some sort of leakage of blood. If there's a leakage of blood, that would indicate a nekev. So maybe that should be a reason to say that's terefa, right? That's the question. So he says like this. So if it's miksata, keshera. If it's kula, the whole thing became reddish, terefa. That's the statement of Rava. On this statement, we're going to have pushback by the yeshiva, Ravena, so just to be clear, and I think I mentioned this maybe in the previous class, I don't remember, there's two Ravenas. There's Ravena, who was a young Talmid of Rabbah and a friend of Rav Esha, Rav Asher. Ravena and Rav Asher were colleagues, and together they edited the Talmud Bavli. So Ravena and Rav Asher are one of the most important Chachamim in human history because they're the ones who edited the Talmud Bavli. So this Ravena is Dor Shishi. There is another Ravena that you hear about sometimes. That's Ravena bar Ravuna. That's a later generation. That's the 7th or 8th generation. Here we're dealing with the Ravena who edited the Talmud together with Rav Asher. He studied with Rava, but then eventually he joined Rav Asher, and Rav Asher, he took over Yeshivat Surah. Well, the only thing is, he wasn't exactly in Surah. He opened up the yeshiva in his own hometown called Matamatzia. So, okay, but it doesn't matter. But it was Yeshivat Surah, essentially. So Ravena, very young Talmid, because Rava is 4th generation. Ravena is 6th generation. He studied Torah with Rava, and he was very young, and apparently he also had some good questions to ask. So here's a question that Ravena asked Rava. אמר לרבנה לרבה.
אמר לרבינה לרבה מקצת מועד טעמה דהזרה בריאה. דהזרה בריאה.
What's the reason that you're saying that if only part of the lung was injured, I'm not injured, mechila, I misspoke, was red, or there's only partial reddening of the lung? Because your assumption is that whatever is causing that reddening, whether it's a leakage of blood or some other thing, that is reversible. And anything that's reversible, by definition, is not a terefa. A terefa is something that will lead to the death of the animal within 12 months. So your theory is that if it's a partial reddening, your theory must be that it's reversible. Okay? Kulana me. In that case, also, what is the logic here? So it started bleeding, and now you see the blood kind of filling up the area around the lung. So what difference does it make? I did shechita now, and only part of the lung was red. I did shechita in 1 hour, and now the whole lung is red. Why would it matter? In both cases, once you start with the idea that hadra beria, the infection or the wound or whatever is causing it is reversible, then it shouldn't matter whether the entire lung became red or whether only part of the lung became red.
כן.
You understand the theory?
מילה תניא ושאר שקסים ורמסים עד שיצא מהם דם.
Now, furthermore, and this is important, get me the blue stick over there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mi la tanya. Mi la tanya means as follows. We don't, in the yeshivot today in Israel, people love having philosophical, metaphysical debates, about the reality, in Borer, what is a ta'arovet, what's not a ta'arovet, meaning in terms of everything becomes metaphysics. This is really not a ta'arovet, this really is a ta'arovet. Not that those are not important questions. Those are very important questions. But these types of discussions have to happen within the context of law. You can't just have an abstract idea and build a halakha around an abstract idea. That's why what Ravina is saying here is so important. Mi la tanya. What is mi la tanya? Mi la tanya means we have a model for this. Meaning, Rava is making this statement that apparently we don't know where he gets it from. He doesn't say Amar Rava, Amar Rav Yosef. He says Amar Rava. So he's telling us a statement. So Ravina, what he's doing is very intelligently, he's taking the statement of Rava and he's framing it within Jewish law. So going back to my original thing about Ta'arovet, L'inyan Borer, it's an important discussion, but it has to happen within the framework of particular halachot, not in the abstract. Right? In the yeshiva, they always have these abstract, what is the mahut of bishul? What is not the mahut of bishul? What is that? Right? No, we're interested in those. So Mila Tanya, there is a model, there is a legal precedent that we can use as a way to think about this problem. Mila Tanya. You understand the importance of Mila Tanya?
כן.
ושאר שכסים ולמעשים.
ושאר שקסים ורמסים עד שיצא מהם דם.
We have the law in Hilchot Shabbat. The law in Hilchot Shabbat that she'ar shekasim ulmasim, not the 8 shekasim ulmasim, but she'ar shekasim ulmasim, generally frogs, snails, ants, termites.
כן.
It's not considered Hilul Shabbat. I'm going to explain in a moment. And to be precise, it's not, so okay, let me take a step back. I'm jumping. If you injure an animal, and the animal has an external bleeding, there's no question, Hilul Shabbat de'oraita. Right.
As long as you need the blood, נכון?
Oh, a very interesting question. So now, as long as you need the blood, right? Okay, good. Now, what about if it's an internal wound? That's called habura. I'm making an internal wound where the blood didn't leave the body, but you see there was an eruption of blood within. And that eruption of blood within causes a discoloration, which is visible, black and blue. In the case of a person, if somebody gets punched by somebody else, it causes a black and blue. The black and blue is because there was a habura, which caused internal bleeding. So, in the case of behema, haya, of shemona sherasim, if there is an internal bleeding, isur de'oraita. Let's read. Get the Hilchot Shabbat.
It's it.
Oh, it's there. Okay.
Yeah.
Perek Het.
Yeah.
Hilchot Shabbat Perek Het. Halacha Zayin, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
It's like שמונה שרצים or something, right?
yeah, shemona sherasim.
פרק ח'
Hadash. Yes, Hadash. Read it from here.
אוקיי. הדש כגרוגרת חיה
But that's tisha, to separate the shell of the wheat from the kernel, and they do that by having the animal walk on it. Okay, and whatever that is.
ואין דישה אלא
בגידולי קרקע, very important. Tisha applies to growing things, plants.
והמפרק הרי הוא תולדת הדש.
הרי הוא תולדת hadash. So mefarek is toladat hadash. What is mefarek, for example? Continue.
החולב את הבהמה חייב מפני שהוא מפרק.
So mefarek. So the milk is in the udder, and you're separating the milk from the udder.
וכן החולב.
Now this is the next one. So we said החולב, now we're doing החובל.
So כמה זה גידולי קרקע?
So dash is dafka גידולי קרקע. חולב is not, mefarek is not גידולי קרקע anymore. ריאה, that חולב is a type of מפרק. So we have מפרק, and now we're going to have חובל. וכן החובל.
וכן, החובל בחי שיש לו עור חייב משום מפרק.
Another type of מפרק. חובל בחי שיש לו עור. Any animal, any behema, any חיה, any one of the shemona shirasim that the Torah mentions, like a lizard. If you're chovel, and I said chovel is what? No, what is chovel? What do we mean by the word chovel?
Getting done.
Right, black and blue. Not here, because not necessarily okay, בכן החובל, חי משום מפרק, והוא?
והוא שיפריך הדם שיצא מן החבורה.
So מחילה, I misspoke, you were correct. Meaning, the idea of chovel is that the blood leaves the body.
No.
But, as you said before, correctly, והוא שיצריך לדם שיצא מן החבורה.
I think you would said though that it doesn't matter if the blood comes out.
No, later on we're going to see that. But for now, we have to build, meaning, it's correct that if it doesn't, we're going to see that later. But for now, Hanambam, we have to follow the chain of thought. So we have dash in vegetation. We have mefarek. One type of mefarek is cholev. Another type of mefarek is oseh habura, where the blood leaves. Okay? The animal. Yeah.
אבל אם נתכוון להזיק בלבד, פטור.
מפני שהוא מקלקל. Okay. Now, במה דברים אמורים? When do we say that is חי משום מפרק?
במה דברים אמורים? בחובל, בבהמה וחיה וכיוצא בהן. אבל החובל בחברו.
Okay. החובל בחברו, חיה בעניין החתול. Okay, that's a different law. Let's continue. Now, הלכה ט'.
שמונה שכסים האמורים בתורה, שרסים האמורים בתורה, הן שיש להן עורות לעניין שבת.
Right. So now, in order to be considered oseh habura, the animal has to have an or, which is a legal definition. So the legal definition of an or is I associate it with what's called a closed circulatory system, where the blood is not just filling up the inner cavity of the animal, but there's a circulatory system. And the skin, in the case of closed circulatory system, is permeable. It can breathe oxygen. It can exhale carbon dioxide. So that's, if you study the law carefully, it comes out that this is referring to animals with closed, which is any behema, any haya, any of the shemona shelasim have closed circulatory systems, right, or what we call skin. But אבל שאר שכסים אין להם עוד, they don't have skin. No, we're not saying they don't have skin. The Chachamim say they don't have skin. Obviously they have skin.
Yeah.
But it's a different type of skin because it doesn't breathe oxygen. It doesn't exhale carbon dioxide. So that's why they say אין להם or in that sense.
Okay.
That's right.
לפיכך, החובל בהם פטור.
And in that case, if you're chovel, since there's no or, if you oseh habura, in שאר שכסים ולמסים, it's patur. Because you didn't break, there was no leakage inside. The blood was always filling up the cavity. So it's really not a black and blue, right?
So you can't make a black and blue, נכון?
Meaning, let's say somebody, I don't know, takes I'm thinking, what is an animal that is not included in the Shemona Shirasim? Let's say a frog.
Yeah.
A person injures a frog.
It's not considered a regular
and then
animal.
no blood left the frog. So now you say, if this was another animal, if this was one of the Shemona Shirasim, I would say, but even though no blood left, but it's also habura, it's a black and blue, it's hayab. Okay. But here, most reptilian slithering creatures like ants, termites, millipedes, centipedes, I don't know, whatever, they're not considered, so if you injure them and no blood leaves, it's not also habura, that's like patur.
ואחד החובל בבהמה חייב העוף או בשמונה שרסים ועשה בהן חבורה ויצא הדם או שנשרר הדם אף על פי שלא יצא חייב.
You see? או שנשרר הדם. Right?
Yeah.
או שנשרר הדם. Alright? חייב. In that case חייב. But in שאר שכסים ולמסים, there is no נשרר הדם. Okay, so that's the idea. So that's what it's saying here. So it says, Titania, נשרר, now go back to the Gemara.
Okay. תתניה, נשרר הדם, אף על פי שלא יצא.
נשרר הדם.
אף על פי שלא יצא.
Yeah, נשרר הדם, if in the case of נשרר הדם, although although it didn't get out, he's hayab, because it's also habura, internal habura, right? We just read in Harambam, nisrar hadam, right? Mechila, it's shemona shelasim, exactly. Shemona shelasim, nisrar hadam. Shemona shelasim is like any animal, right? So shemona shelasim is like any animal. I think it includes like a lizard, a certain type of lizard. It's one of the shemona shelasim. So that lizard, there's several lizards, haleta and a few other lizards. That lizard is like a behema and chaya, and in that case, afal pi shelo yasa hadam, it's enough shenisral hadam and it's hayab. So it's considered like you destroyed, you destroy, perakta, it's a circulatory system, I guess. So he's saying, what are you comparing this to? Are you comparing this to she'ar, shekasim, ulmasim? I'm sorry, are you comparing this, mila tanya, ush'ar, sheka, I skipped. I'm going to read it now and I'm going to explain it. So let's take 2 steps back. Mila tanya, ush'ar, shekasim, ulmasim, ad sheyaseh mehem dam. In the case of the shekasim ulmasim, other than the 8 shekasim ulmasim, but the ones that don't have an or, that have what's called an open circulatory system, ad sheyaseh mehem dam, is not hayab until the blood actually leaves the animal.
Yeah.
But in nisrar hadam, is it considered anything?
No.
No, nothing. So here also, in the case of the lung, what are you saying? You're saying nisrar hadam.
Yeah.
So it should be patur. Ma ikhpat li. Nisrar hadam. Ma ikhpat li. The whole partially nisrar, fully nisrar, the whole lung nisrar. Nisrar hadam is the non-event from the perspective of Jewish law, right?
You need to be leaving the second membrane for it to be nishpach.
Okay. Let's say if we're not right. We're saying it's here. We're dealing with admumit. We're not edema. We're not saying that mamash down. Okay, and whatever is causing the admumit, it's not even clear what's causing. Why would it be turning red like this? We can speculate, but what we have is the halacha, right? So do we compare this to she'ar shekasim ulmasim? If that's the case, it should be kasher, because ush'ar shekasim ulmasim ad sheyaseh mehem dam v'kan lo yasa dam, so it should be kasher, right? If you're going to compare the lung to she'ar shekasim ulmasim, right? On the other hand, v'chitema, no, you misunderstood me. I want to compare the lung. Chabod v'chitema. We should be comparing the lung to shemona sherasim, those 8 sherasim which have a closed circulatory system, which have or, which is like behema b'chaya. So that's why I'm saying that the lung is matrif. The lung is considered taref, because it's an internal wound, and in she'ar shekasim ulmasim, an internal wound is considered a wound, right?
Okay.
Right? I'm going to compare it to shemona sherasim, where asa habura afal pi shelo yasa adam is chayab. So here, there's obviously some sort of habura happening, and what do we say in the shemona sherasim? He's chayab.
Okay.
So he should be chayab. I mean, he should be taref, right?
Yeah.
And how do we know that? I'm sorry, go ahead.
The cow itself is like a regular haya. So
right. The cow itself. Here, the question. Yeah, of course, the cow itself is regular haya. The question is, how do we treat the
specific of the rea?
Yeah, and you have to say something. You treat it like this. You can say, no, I want to treat it like this. No, dafka treat it like a behema haya. It's part of a behema haya, and therefore it should be treated like a behema haya.
Yeah.
No problem. But you have to treat it like something. That's the point of Avena, right? So it's considered like if you do a habura and shemona sherasim, it's considered a habura, and you're chayav on Shabbat afal pi shelo yasa adam. Detanya nisrar adam afal pi shelo yasa. He's chayav in that case. Also miksatana. If a person punches a dog and he has a black and blue, you don't say no. He's only chayav if the black and blue spreads throughout the dog. No, it's also a partial black and blue. It's chayav deoraita, right? You understand? So which is it, Rava? Is it you want to compare it to she'ar shekasim ulmasim? You want to compare it to shemona shekasim ulmasim? Which do you want to compare it to, right?
La shena.
That's halakha. The halakha is la shena, mechila. Lashena, the halacha is, it doesn't matter whether it's miksata,
Okay.
whether it's ruba, whether it's kula, lashena. Now, on this is machloket lashena what? Lashena it's taref or lashena it's kasher, right? We read Harabam in a moment. Okay, so now we're going to read the third statement of Rava. Ve'amar Rava.
ואמר רבה ריאה שיבשה מקצתה טרפה.
Okay, that's a statement. ריאה שיבשה מקצתה טרפה. So the statement is that if there another way that you can have a nekev, or what's considered ריאה נקובה, is im yavesha. So you see, again, the theme here is that Rava is made these bunch of statements which are all interrelated, right? So Re'ashi Avishra Miksata Terefa. It's dry. It's not hasera. It's not the part of the eye is missing. It's dry. So you did check down the animal. You take it out, there's no hole in it. But it's dry. So before we dealt, in the previous we dealt with what if one of the membranes are missing? Is that considered nekuva? Here we're dealing with what if the re'ah is part of it, the eye is dry. Is that considered like a nekev in the place that was dry?
Yeah.
You understand?
Could you say that this is like the toladot of a nekev?
I don't like, because the Gemara doesn't refer to avot, toladot, so let's...
is it like the Rabbanan version?
No,
of a
no,
nekev?
no, no, no.
No?
No, we don't view it that way. Again, I like, I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're going, but we need to structure our thinking based on what the Gemara actually tells us, and not to jump outside the structure that the Gemara gives us. And that's why it's so important to understand the sugya, because if you understand the sugya as explaining nekuvat re'ash nikeva, so now you understand how to formulate these ideas in your mind conceptually. That's why I know that the re'ash yavsha, the issue is mishum nekuva, right?
Do we consider it like halacha Moshe Sinai?
Meaning,
if we came to the conclusion that...
That's a very good question. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu received in Sinai the Re'ah Nekuva, right? Shemona terefot out of 70 terefot. So one of them was Nekuva. So now, but you're right. The Chachamim are discussing what is included within Nekuva.
Okay.
So Re'ashi Yavesha Miksata Terefa. Okay. Lechama, so Yavesha is a very unclear term. What does dry mean? Is it dry? Like how dry is dry or not dry?
וכמה אמר רב פאפה משמדי רבה כדי שתפרח בציפורן.
בציפורן. Okay, so Rav Papa, he was, by the way, Rava was Emora Rosh Hashiva of Fom Bedita, although in his days the yeshiva was in a city called Mechozah, but okay. He was the Rosh Hashiva of Fom Bedita, 4th generation. One of his Talmidim was Rav Papa. There were 3 good friends that were Talmidim of Rav Papa, Rav Papa, and Rav Una Bered de Rabbi Yoshua. You see these 3 together a lot. So Rav Papa is one of this, what's called Hultam Shulash, maybe that's a good way of putting it. So Rav Papa, he apparently became the Rosh Hashiva at some point in time. But here, so maybe this statement was made when he was a Rosh Hashiva. Bechama. Amar Rav Papa Mishemed Rabba. Now, why is it important that it's Mishemed Rabba? Why is it Amar Rav Papa Amar Rabba?
Because it's not something he explicitly said.
Exactly, he didn't say it in these words. Exactly. This is something that Rav Papa said, I understand from
like from the
classes, from what Abba was saying, I understood that this is the standard. But this is not the exact words of Rava, right? Now, that's why it's important to know that Papa was a Talmid of Rava, and he also became the Rosh Hashiva. So he has the authority to, so to speak, tell us his opinion about Rava, his understanding of Rava's opinion on Re'ashi Avesha, right? So, Amar Papa Mishemed Rava Kadesh Tiparech Besiporen, and that's important. What does Kadesh Tiparech Besiporen mean?
If you put your siporen on it, it's going to
right. If you scratch it with the siporen, it's brittle, so it'll like crumble that part. So you see part of that eyes crumbles. Yeah. And here you see the methodology again. You frame it within the context of law. Keman. Kerev Yosef ben Amshulam. You understand? The keman here is like the milatanya previously. We want to frame it within the context of law. Keman. Kerev Yosef ben Amshulam. Who is this like? This is like. It's not that Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam was talking about Риאה. He wasn't talking about Риאה, but he was talking about a similar topic, and we'll see in a moment what. And this model of there's a machlok between Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam and Tanakama in the Mishnah in Masechet Bechorot. We can use that as a model to understand the statement of Rava. Now, let me just to refresh your memory. You want to tell me what the law is with the Bechol Behema, Zachar, Bechol Behema, Zachar.
We give to the Kohen, to the Bet HaMikdash.
You give it to the Kohen, number one.
Yeah.
But what does the Kohen do with it? There's two possibilities.
If it doesn't have a mum, it goes to a Korban and then he eats it.
Yes, exactly. He the chalev, the emorin he puts on the fire, and the rest of the meat he eats. Okay, it's kadashim kalim, so he can eat it anywhere within the walls of Yerushalayim. That's kadashim kalim, as opposed to koche kadashim like chalkat or asham, which he has to eat in the Bet HaMikdash. Okay. This is kadashim kalim. He eats it anywhere within the walls of Jerusalem. Okay, that's if there's no mum. What if it's mum?
All to the Kohen.
Exactly, all to the Kohen. So the question now always becomes, what's a mum? And this Mishnah, and for some reason it says Detanya, I don't know. Sometimes you have in the Gemara where it quotes a Mishnah and it says Detanya.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And then you there. All right? I know also the Rif has Detanya. And then you there. By the way, also another thing I should have mentioned at the beginning of the class, here it says Gufaha, Amarava, Haire Ade Igleda, Ke Ahina Sumka Keshera. If you look at the previous page, Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph, the original statement, the Amarabba with the hair. But this is apparently this is a mistake. It's the Amarava, right? But when I checked the Rif, it had the Amar Rabba with the hair. So again, I don't know, but it's Bevadaut the Amarava. That I can say. It's Bevadaut the Amar Rava.
Because all of the rest of them are Rava.
Because we see it. Because it's Rava, 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 Rava. So we see this is a Rava. The show is Rava here. Okay. All right. 1 second. Rabba, it's bevadaut Rabba. Pashut. On the Tanya, I don't know why. It doesn't say Ditnam. Okay, but Benkach or Benkach. The Tanya ezohi yevesha, because we have one of the mumim. It has to be mum shebagalu. It has to be an external mum. In the case of the Bechor, right? So ezohi yevesha, what is considered ozen? So if there's a ozen yevesha, it's considered an external wound. And in that case, it would be, you wouldn't bring it as a korban. So the question is, how dry does the ear have to be? Machloket Nakama and Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam. She'im tenake ve'ena mosi adam.
She'im tenake ve'ena mosi adam.
My mistake. Tipat dam. That's considered yevesha. Meaning if it's dry, it doesn't have to be very dry. It's enough that if you puncture the ear and it doesn't bleed, that's considered yevesha. Low standard of yevesha.
רבי יוסף בן המשולם אומר יבשה כדי שתהיה נפרחת בציפורן.
Right. Rabbi Yosef says no, it has to be really dry. It's not enough. If you puncture it and it doesn't bleed, that's not considered yevesha. You would bring that on the mizbeach. But if it's so yevesha shenifrechet b'siporen, that's you scratch it and it crumbles. That's considered yevesha. So here apparently, and the reason the Gemara is the yeshiva is pointing this out. Well, what do you think the yeshiva is pointing out the comparison? First, I said before we want to have a legal structure or legal framework to think about the question, but there's also something more fundamental. If you're saying it's like Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam, the halakha is not like Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam and Bechor.
Okay.
So it would be odd that you chose that standard. Maybe there's a reason. But it would be odd. You chose Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam that says, Yevesha kedesh tiparech besiporen as the standard for Yevesha. Okay, halakha is like Tanakama. It doesn't have to be nifrechet besiporen. It's enough that it's that tinakev enamosi adam. But nevertheless, so the yeshiva is aware of that, right? Right. And that's why the yeshiva says afilu tema rabbanan.
אפילו תאמר רבנן.
No, maybe the Hachamim agree with Rabbah. Meaning, had the Hachamim been alive and they had to make a statement regarding what's considered a Re'ah Yevesha, right? Not agree with Rabbah, I agree with Rav Papa. What is considered a Re'ah Yevesha? Maybe Hachamim, the same Hachamim that said that in the case of Bechor, it's enough that it's dry, Kadesh, to Nakev Otosi to Padam. In the case of the Re'ah, no, it's not dry enough. It has to be Kadesh to Parech Basiponin. Why? Why do we have a higher standard for the Re'ah?
גבי אוזן בחור דקה, שליט ב...
No, so it's Gabe Ozen.
גבי אוזן, בחור דקה, שליט בזיקה.
Mechila, I lost the place, and you're not reading it. Gabe Ozen Bechor. The Ozen of the Bechor, in that case, Hachamim say, it doesn't have to be so dry. It's enough. It's enough that if you puncture it, it doesn't bleed, because there, the kashalit bezika, it's an open wound. One of the things I tell you, when you go to a hospital, they put a bandage around the wound to protect it, because an open wound is more likely to get infected or to become worse. So in the case of Ozen, that's like an open wound. That's why Hachamim said it's enough that that's dry enough, you don't put it on the mizbeach, right? But in the case of the Re'ah, which is a closed wound, it's within the body of the cow or whatever the animal is. Then in that case, it could become Beriah. It's almost like you put a bandage. And that's why, if the Re'ah is so dry, in that case, Hachamim would say, no, we agree, that's not considered Re'ah Yevesha, and the animal is not Terefa. But if the lung is so dry that if Teparech B'Siponin, in that case, it's Terefa. All right? So that was the third statement of Rava, right?
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
ואמר רבא, היי ראה דקיימה רליזה גליזה.
I think it's גילדה גילדה.
גילדה גילדה.
אוכמה אוכמה.
אוכמה. חדוותה חדוותה.
חזותה חזותה.
חדותה.
Keshera. Okay. This, I think, if I'm not miscounting, I think this is the fourth statement. If you have a re'ah and it has patches of white, the Reef says gilde gilde like sarah. That's why I say patches of white. Sarat is white. Ochme 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 is dark blue, right? Hazuta 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 is reddish greenish, a reddish greenish color, right? Keshera, it's keshera, okay? All right. So here we have the discolorations of the re'ah. You might think that the discoloration indicates that there's a sickness, there's an infection, there's going to be a nekev, there was a nekev, there is going to be a nekev. No, these specific discolorations are fine. There are other discolorations that Rambam brings in the case of Re'ah Nekuba. Let me see it quickly. Where is the salacha? Perek Zayin. Okay, so look at Perek Zayin. It's the end of Perek Zayin, almost the end, not exactly the end. Of course, then it says, Arba mar'ot mutarot yesh ba. There are 4 mar'ot mutarot in the re'ah. Shechor ha'kakohal, that's the dark blue.
Yeah.
The dark blue. What was it called? Uchme, thank you. O yeruka kehasir. Green like Swiss chard, I think, if I'm not mistaken. O aduma, it could also be reddish. O kemar'eh ha'kaved, dark like a liver. Interesting, he doesn't, unlike the... So you know what, Mechila, ani chazarti bi. When the Reef said mesora'at, I don't think he was talking about the white mesorah, I think he was talking about the green mesorah, yerakrak or damdam. I think that's what the Reef meant. Chazarti because...
Is the liver purple or pink? So, because maybe it's like a liver, like a pink.
First, that's a good question. I assume it's like a dark reddish color. But look at the Reef here, and I think I made a mistake. I said gilde is white because the Reef said mesorah, but now that I'm thinking, it's odd that Rambam would disagree with the Reef on this point. Why make a machloket? So maybe I misunderstood it. Look at here. He says, Amar Rabba hayre ade kaima gilde uchme hazuta keshera mishum dehadra beria. He says, now very important, mishum dehadra beria.
Okay.
You see the relationship between this statement and the previous statement of Rabbah, where you have the Риאה shehe'edima. So you would see these statements were studied together, right? All these colors, not only red is Hadra B'Riya, also Ochmeh is Hadra B'Riya, Hazuta is Hadra B'Riya. Ikaman de Farish, Gilde de Damul Limsora. Interesting. No, here it's talking about Limsora. That means the person Mesora. The person Mesora would be white. Uchmeh de Damul le Kohla. Kohla is like they used to put like this blue, dark blue eye shade under the eyes. חזותה גבנה דמתקשרה בהוא ריאה, כגון ירוקה, כקרתי או אדום. So no, maybe. So apparently for at least for the Reef, Gilde seems to be white. Harambam doesn't bring white. And any Odea, why doesn't Harambam bring white? And any Odea, but it's good to be aware of it. Okay? Okay, so now let's go to the fifth statement of Rabbah.
I
think we skipped Amar Memar. Go one line above.
Amar Memar Mishme de Rava En Makifin
Bebu'eh. A very interesting halacha. En Makifin Bebu'eh. So let's give this halacha the proper context. Let's open up Harambam in Perek Zayin. Do you have it over there, right? Or no? Yeah. Open up.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And Nikifin Babu'ai. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Shene Kerumot. No. 1 second, Mechila. Before we say the statement of En Makifin Bebu'eh, I just want to point out that in Ilchot Shachita Perek Zayin Alachayot Zayin, he brings the Mar'ot Asurot. The same way there's Mar'ot Mutarot, there's also Mar'ot Asurot. Right? The Hamesh Mar'ot Asurot Yesh Bare'ah. Shechora Kadeyo, Yeruka Kena Keshut. Right? So some Mar'ot, not every Mar'eh, colorful Mar'eh is considered. These Mar'ot are considered that it's, terminally ill.
Ke'en Hilmon Besa, is that like white? Or
So
Hilmon Basa is white, no?
right, so it's into machloket, but if I was to take the standard explanation of Hilmon is the yellow. But apparently the Geonim understood Hilmon as the white. But Benkach or Benkach, I just wanted to point that out. Let's go back to what we were dealing with, which is the question of comparing. Right, so this law of comparing, and Abban brings the law of comparing in Perek Shevi'i. Read Perek Zayin Halacha Yod Bet. Not ריאה שנתמסמסה, go to ריאה שנמצאת נקובה. Halacha Yod Bet.
Okay.
חבוד, ריאה שנמצאת נקובה.
ריאה שנמצאת נקובה במקום שיד הטבח ממשמשת מותרת.
Okay, so if you found a nekev in the ריאה, but it's in the place where the tabach sticks his hands in, maybe he wants to separate that up from the rib cage for whatever reason. If that's what the nekev is, it's mutaret because we're tolim in the yad ha-tabach, in the mishmush. Okay.
ותולים בידו ואומרים מיד הטבח נקבה אחר השחיטה.
Exactly. That the nekev wasn't there beforehand. Okay. It only came after the shechita, and therefore it's not matzrif.
נמצא הנקב במקום אחר ואין ידוע אם קודם שחיטה נקבה או אחר שחיטה, נוקבים בה נקב אחר ומזמין כשם שעושים בבני מעיים.
Explain the halacha, please. While I give myself a tissue.
Okay. هذا طبعا نكبة אחר, נקב במקום אחר. קודם שחיטה. So, should I say it loud enough for you to hear?
What?
Should I say it loud enough for you to hear?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if the nekev is at a different place, where the yad tabach has lo limsa.
Exactly.
So, then there, it's I guess the question.
So now,
whether it's before the shachita came or
exactly,
after the shachita.
but I still have a doubt. Was it before the shechita or after the shechita?
Yeah.
The nekev formed. So what do we do?
I guess okay. It's the case that you're not sure, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Nokevim ba'nekev achayr umdamin.
Yeah.
We make another nekev and we look at the other nekev, maybe in the other re'ah, in the same spot on the other re'ah. You have a re'ah, one re'ah is nekuva. So you take the other Re'ah, make a nekev in the exact same spot, and you compare. And if it looks the same, we say, ahar shechita. No, the second Re'ah was definitely ahar shechita. I made the nekev.
Yeah.
So the first one was ahar shechita. Okay. But then, actually, as long as you read halakha gimel, the end of the mean.
ואין מדמים מריאה של בהמה דקה לריאה של בהמה גסה, אלא מדקה לדקה ומגסה לגסה.
Exactly. It would have to be, so if you have like another animal which has a lung, you can take the lung from another animal, doesn't have to be from the same animal, and you could be medameh as long as it's behema gasa to gasa or daka to daka. Okay.
Okay.
Now, but this is the law that we're studying now. Nimsa hanekev.
Where are we?
At the end of halakha yod gimel. Nimsa hanekev.
נמצא הנקב באחד מן העבועות, הרי זאת טרפה.
But if there was a blister, and the nekev was inside the blister, that's it. It's terefa. הרי זאת terefa.
ואין אומרים נקובה בעבוע אחר בנערוך, שאין הדבר ניכר.
Right. You can't compare it to another. I mean, that animal, that also has a blister, and there's no nekev in that blister. So let me make a nekev, and now compare the second re'ah, which I just made the nekev, ahar shechita, to the first one, see if it's the same.
Yeah.
You can't compare. Every blister is different. The skin is different. What caused a blister is different. So that you can't, and that's what he's saying here. En mekifin bebu'eh. Amar ameman mishemeh deraba en mekifin bebu'eh. We don't compare. The nekev, normally we compare one nekev to another nekev in re'ah. But if the nekev is in a blister, terefa. That's end of story.
It's not because it's באמת או טרפה, it's just because there's no way to know.
I mean, no. Well, we assume likely that the blister and the nekev are related. Number one.
Yeah.
But you say, you don't know. Maybe you have many blisters and no nekev. You have many blisters with no nekev. So you know what I'm going to do? I have a good idea. Maybe the nekev came afterwards. Let me make a nekev under another blister, and like this, I'll compare. Because each one is different.
But there's no way to find out if it's...
Yeah.
Okay.
Now just a point, Amemar is not Marema. Amemar was, he transmits something in the name of Rava here, but he's not Marema. So just not to confuse the name Amemar, it sounds like Maremar, but it's not Maremar, right? This Amemar is from the 5th, 6th generation. He was a Chacham in Nehar De'ah, and one of the main Chachamim in Nehar De'ah, right? So he's, and he also was a Rosh Yeshiva in Nehar De'ah. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, he's transmitting a law in the name of Rava, and again, it's Mishemeh. Okay, let's go. We have another 2 halachot. Let's do it, and with this we finish the Shev Shemateta, the 7 Shemuot in the name of Rava. Ve'amar Rava.
ואמר רבה, הנתרתי עונה דסריחן להזזה לתלהו בזיקה לאמרן, אלא שלא כסדרן, אבל כסדרן
היינו רביתאי הוא. Okay. הנתרתי עונה. So you have the lung. On the lung you have the main compartment. It's called the umma, or the M, right? That's the main compartment of the lung. And then you have these, on the right side you have 3 ears, and on the left side you have 2 ears. These ears are called unne. Okay? So, Ve'amar Rabba, Hane tarte unne, disrichan lehadadeh, let lehu bedika. If you have 2, you have a picture here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's open up Parabab. Hadet tere ule. This perek het halacha. I can't see.
Where is it?
Perek het halacha.
It's pretty blurry.
Okay, so I'm glad that's the reason I couldn't see is because it's blurry.
Hey.
Yeah. Okay. Perek het halacha. Hey. Let's read Harambam. Yeah. Ozem shenim set evuka b'chaverta. Okay. So. Okay. Before we even read Hanabam, let me explain to you the theory of the sirchot. So sirchot is where you have like a stringy piece of flesh hanging from the re'ah. And the general rule is that sircha teluya, if you just have a sircha, This is a general rule, but with the Bet Yosef and the Rishonim, there's many discussions. But Sirchat Teluya on its own, meaning it's it's only attached on one side and on the other side. It could be keshera. It's not necessarily terefa. But the idea of the sircha is, why do you think a sircha is terefa? When you see a sircha, what causes like piece of like flesh to hang from the lung? So the theory is that there was a nekev, and the animal's trying to heal itself, and there's an eruption of whatever it uses to heal itself, and that eruption comes from the nekev, and it keeps growing, and it becomes a sircha. So when you see a sircha, the sircha is like an ayat that there must be a nekev there, or there must have been a nekev there. Yeah. Now, if it's a sircha teluya, put that on the side. We're not dealing with sircha teluya now. That we deal with later on.
Teluya is when it's not in the ריאה itself?
No. Teluya is it's on the ריאה, it's attached to the ריאה, but it's only attached from one side. It's not attached from two sides. A hanging sircha, it's hanging from the ריאה.
It's not connected to anything, you're saying?
It's connected to the ריאה on one side, but not connected to anything on the other side. Okay, this is not a sircha teluya. And when you have a sircha that's not teluya, it's that's it. It means that there's a real hole there, there's a nekev, and it keeps erupting and erupting and erupting until it finally, the piece of flesh grew until it reached whatever it reached, and as a result, we know that there's a nekev. You don't have to check it. Okay, so again, you see each one of these 5 statements is related to the question of ריאה נקובה. You understand? Very, very important. Also the discoloration. So now we know when it talks about discoloration, hazuta, right? Apparently the discoloration was related to something in the ריאה, some sort of infection or something that made the ריאה. Again, we don't know exactly what. I don't know because I'm not familiar with animals. Why is that related to nekuva, not nekuva? But we know it's related only to aduma. And the aduma, we said maybe there was a wound, and now the blood is seeping through the layers between the two membranes. Maybe. Again, I don't know the anatomy of animals enough to be able to comment, so I just have the Gemara, and that's what I'm studying. I'm studying and teaching the Gemara without speculating as to what caused these various ailments or discolorations. Okay? Well, let's read the statement of Amemar. Amar Amemar Mishimei Derava. We read that. Ve'amar Rava Chavot. Hanet Alte.
ואמר רב הנת ארתה ונד נפריכן להבזלת להו בזיקה.
So, you have, again, the ears, or the lobes, of the lung. You have the main compartment of the lung, right? But then on the lung of an animal, you have these lobes on the side, 3 on the right, 2 on the left. So now, if you have a sircha from one lobe, and it's attached to another lobe. Hanet tarte une. You have 2 lobes, and they're connected to each other by a sircha. Now, this is not a sircha teluya. This sircha should be no good.
It's like mehubar from both sides.
Exactly. This sircha lehadadeh.
Yeah.
Let the ubedikah. There's nothing to be bodek. It's terefa. When you have a sircha mehuberet on both sides, that's it. It's terefa. One of the questions that comes up, and we're going to study Bilineda when we get to the Bet Yosef, Bezat Hashem, is what's considered halak Bet Yosef, not halak Bet Yosef. But right now we're studying the Gemara, right? We want to focus on the Gemara, so you have a clear understanding what the Gemara says. So like that we can evaluate what the Rishonim say in light of the Gemara. The mistake that everybody makes when they study these laws is they evaluate the Gemara in light of what the Rishonim say. But I like to evaluate the Gemara in light of the Gemara, and then evaluate what the Rishonim say in light of the Gemara, not the other way around. Okay. Right? So, okay.
Is the like theory that the sircha is going to rip eventually?
Okay, right? Maybe.
I remember, I think we read that in the Meiri, maybe?
Okay, right, they're different, that's the same chalt. Well, okay, but right now we're just looking purely at the sugya itself. But you're right, the Meiri was talking about that. So you have 2 lobes of the lungs that are connected to each other with the sircha. There's nothing to do. But this law that you cannot be bodek the sirchot, that's it's automatically a taref, is limited. Ela shelo kesidran. Right. If it's, for example, lobe number we said on the right side you had 3 lobes. Lobe number 1 is connected to lobe number 3. That's shelo kesidran. That's bevad'ut. That's taref. There's a nekah there. That's taref. אבל כסדרן,
אבל כסדרן,
I know Rabbi Tai who, but if the lobes are let's say on the left side you have lobe number 1 connected to lobe number 2, that's kesidran. That's not considered evidence of a nekev, because what happens is when the animal is young, imagine these are the unot, right? So 3 on the right, 2 on the left, right?
Yeah.
Now when the animal is young, the sirchot, the lung is small and condensed, but then as the lung grows, they begin to grow, and the unot, the lobes separate from each other. You see that? So now,
and then there's like flush in between.
Exactly. So therefore, if you have sirchot connecting adjacent lobes, that's not considered a problem. That's hainu Rabbi Tayu. That's the way they grow. And sometimes when they grow, it takes a while for the flesh to separate completely. But in the case where it's, let's say, lobe number 1 attached to lobe number 3 with the sircha, that's bevadaut. That's it. There's nothing to do anymore. You understand? Okay. One more halakha, and that's it. Let lehu bedikuta. Read that. This is the 7th and final statement of Rava. And again, I acknowledge that there's an 8th statement of Rava, but that's an entire sugya. Okay, so chabod.
למה רבה הנטר תבועד דסמכה להזה זה
דסמיכה
להזה זה לת להו בדיקותה.
Okay, you have two okay, you have 2 blisters, and there's a picture. The picture is very important because really it makes it. Now, when you have Perek Zayin al Chayot Aleph, in the Makbili has a very nice picture. So read Hanambam. So you have 2 blisters, and you have a let lehu bedikuta. Read Hanambam. So you have 2 blisters, and they're right next to each other on the Re'ah, right? That's it. It's Terefa. There's nothing to check. Apparently, there's a nekev right between these 2 blisters, and the eruption of the nekev, instead of forming a sircha, it formed these 2 blisters. And again, all these halachot is hazakah. Do we know for sure? No. We don't know for sure, but the Torah is based on the following principle: Achareh Rabim Lehatot, and therefore we have chazakah. Usually, when you have 2 blisters, most of the times because there's a nekev in between them, right?
Is it the same halacha also when there's 1 blister?
No, we didn't get to 1 blister. 1 blister we'll see in a moment. But the point, no. What we said in 1 blister is if there's a nekev in the blister, you can't compare that nekev, and you say, I don't know when that nekev came. Did it come before the shahita? Did it come after the shahita? Say, there's another day here, and this day has a blister. Let me puncture that, make a nekev under that blister, and compare the 2 nekavim. Right?
And in this union, we're saying that
this is
even
not,
if we don't see a
nothing,
nekev, it's
exactly. We're not comparing. So ריאה שנמצאת נקובה. I'm sorry, wrong halacha. ריאה פרק זין על חיות עליו. חבוד.
ריאה שנמצאו בה שני אבעבועות סמוכות זו לזאת רפה.
שהדבר קרוב בהם שכנגד בהם. Now what's the problem? So check. Maybe check. אין להם דרך בדיקה. There's no because what the problem, the reason אין להם דרך בדיקה is because the flesh of the blister will kind of be sealing the nekev, so you wouldn't see it, right? But it's a nekev that's erupting these 2 blisters, so אין להם דרך בדיקה. So that's what he says. ואמר רבה, הנטר תבועד הסמיכה להדדה לת להו בדיקותה. But he continues and he says, don't confuse the situation where you have 2 genuine blisters with the situation where you have 1 blister and there's a slight indentation. So you're saying, maybe really it's 2 blisters. I don't know, is this 1 blister that's a little, low in the middle, or is it 2 separate blisters? No. So there's a way to check.
So it's considered 1 blister.
Exactly, it's considered 1 blister. So when you have 1 blister, which looks like 2, what are you going to do to determine that you're correct? That's really 1 blister and not 2 blisters. Silva. You bring a thorn. And you puncture the blister on one side, and then you press on the other side. And if you see that the juice is coming out, whatever is inside, what do you call it? The fluid is leaving the hole. I'm pressing what could have been another blister. Obviously, it's not another blister because I'm pressing down on that, and now the fluid is coming out from the hole.
From the second blister.
Blister. So obviously, it's 1 blister. You understand? חדר מתחזק כתלתיה, מתינן סילבה, ובזעינן לה. We puncture one side of this large blister with the thorn. ישפכן להדדה, חדה היא וקשרה. If the fluid from one goes out the hole of the other, that means it's one blister.
So when you're putting pressure on the
Exactly.
other side.
Ve'ila, but if not, tarteninu, that's really two blisters, and we said two blisters is nothing you can do.
Okay.
It's over. Utrefa. Okay, Shabbat soon. We have to let me read the halakha correctly. Ve'amar Rabba, hane tartevu edismichan lehadadeh let lehu bedikuta. Hada umitachzak etarteh maitinan silva ubaz'inan la. ישפכה להדדה, not שפכן, ישפכה להדדה, חדה היא וקשרה, בעילה תרתי אינון וטרפה. Okay, so this is Shef Shemateta, beautiful thing. It would be interesting to figure out the relationship in the order between the 7 Shevot. Maybe next time we'll do the relationship, but then we have the next saying with Amarava, which now has to do not with Nikuva, but with Chasera. All right?